Hello. The recording is in progress. This is my 4 o'clock class on the steps and traditions during Gemini season. The Power of 12 by 12 is a class that I teach where I go over the common cultural conceptual mark of completion, which is the number 12. We have 12 hours on the clock. We have 12 months in a year. We have 12 steps and 12 traditions and 12 promises. We have 12 zodiac signs, 12 houses. We have 12 apostles and 12 days of Christmas. There's more, even just looking at our T1 through our T12 and what organs those affect and how that plays into this. And so I know there's a lot more of the areas that probably cover this, but these are the areas that I focus on in this class. These are the areas I feel need the most healing in today's culture and society. And this class is a holistic approach for me to funnel my experience, strength, and hope into, so I can teach in a safe framework what happened to me and how I am today. So let's get going. And this is an important screen and disclosure. This is not an AA or ACA meeting. Like I said, this is a class that teaches a holistic approach to healing found in trauma surrounding religious trauma, addiction, childhood trauma around poverty, and or like a heavy focus on material objects or money. And I use 4 strings of spirituality. I use astrology, I use 12-step programs, I use Christianity, and I use recovery. The reason why I separate 12-step programs and recovery is because one I feel is like active working the steps, and one is like maintenance, laundry, living, promises. That's how I break it up. So while you may have found this class as a result of a 12-step program, this is not a substitute for one. If you need a sponsor, get one. Work the steps. It saves your life. It's free. Go to aa.org or adultchildren.org to find a local meeting and speak up. It's very important for your mental health, and you are worth it. So this is a free class on YouTube. Like I said, sharing my story and hopefully helping somebody. I'm not a licensed therapist or counselor. I have an Associate of Arts at best in early childhood education, careers with children 1. I did a lot of work with kids. Yeah, I really love watching minds grow. If you want to participate in this class in person or like one-on-one where we can really dive in, I have supplies, I have a syllabus, I have a book list. So the Power of 12 by 12, how I break it down is the first week I go over this planet, the zodiac, and the house of the month. This month is 3. So we will be going over, but last week we went over Mercury, we went over Gemini, and we went over the 3rd house. And then tonight we're going to go over the 3rd step and 3rd tradition. And then next week we'd go over the 3rd day of Christmas and the 3rd apostle. And then the 4th week we'll go over the 3rd laundry list and the 3rd promise for both programs. And this was on the infograph that I was using, and I just thought it was interesting because if you do 1, 2, 3, which we're on 3, because you can go from the root or you can go from the crown. And I just thought our crown chakra really is this connection to our divine, our higher power. That's having that like alignment to our higher power when we pray. And then I was thinking about our 3rd eye chakra. And how it really is our connection to our inner loving parent. The more we know ourselves, the more we know our story, the more we can forgive ourselves and be like, of course you did that. Like, that makes sense. And really love yourself, the more peace you have within. Those two being in alignment is what allows us to speak and communicate truthfully, to speak honestly, to have this blockage removed so that the rest of the love can flow down into our heart, into our core, into our sacral, and into our root. And that's what grounds us. But since we're going 1, 2, 3, we're talking about communicating and speaking with faith. There are 3 versions of step 3. If you work AA, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. ACA made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. And Tony A steps made a decision to practice self-love and to trust a higher power of our understanding. So for me, what I see here is that if you're a 1, 2, 3er and you stop at 4, this is a great place to pause. If you can't make a decision to turn your will and your life over to God as you understood him, try the ACA way. Try to understand God as you understand him today. And if you can't, you can make a decision to practice self-love and trust a higher power of your understanding, of our understanding. That's the wordage. So it's like, if you can't do it in AA and you can't do it in ACA, let your community help you of our understanding. Our higher power will love you until you can have your inner loving parent, your higher power connection there. So, like I said last week, we went over Mercury, 3rd house, Gemini. Mercury, it's the smallest planet in the solar system. It's the closest to the sun, and it's next to Venus, which means like we're bouncing with communication. We can bounce back and forth between joy and love, joy and love, joy and love when we communicate. And again, 3rd house is communication, really that early childhood education. And Gemini, our air sign, the thoughts, the quick thinking. And since we're in 3s, I'll use 3 of Swords. Swords are air in tarot. It's the most heartbreaking card you can have in tarot. It's the card that literally I feel like has always depicted my life. This heartbreak. And so I move over to step 3. It's steps are so we don't kill ourselves. Traditions are so we don't kill others. So step 3 is so we don't kill ourselves. We need faith. Tradition 3, so we don't kill others. We need faith by communicating about our eligibility. I'll jump into that more later. You are a member when you say you are a member. Plain and simple. And because me and my synchronicities, we got 333. In AA, we have this thing called our story. So we share our story, which is basically our experience, our strength, and our hope, or what happened, or what we were like, what happened, and what we're like now, or like where we are at now. And so this is the point. I'm going to share my story. I'm going to jump in at 2020. My story, I say rivers, dead ends, and denial. So in 2020, just before joining AA, my life is a hot mess. I know I need to make a decision. Drinking was hard for me. I was facing 7 years in prison. My husband and I were at a very bad place in our marriage. I was obsessed with another person who was also going through it. And it was just like someone pulled the grenade and it exploded. And I started seeing 33 everywhere. In the time, my order number at McDonald's, I say in candles, but what I mean by that are these certain prayer candles that I would buy and laminate because, you know, reuse, recycle, or whatever. And so it's like, make this troop by 3 by 3 by 3. And it was just everywhere. Number of likes on a page. So I looked it up one day and it was 333 right when I looked it up. And the universe is trying to send you a message. Freedom, encouragement, communication. Communication. And then it was like, the time's come to make a decision. 3. Okay. Somehow the 3s, seeing 333 did not do anything for me. I didn't want to turn my will and especially my life over to God. I'll fast forward to November of 2020, where I'm selling my home. We're moving out. I'm going to be building a home in Tillamook. It's chaos. I am 1 year into probation, I'm trying to get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is proving to be almost impossible. And I was really obsessed with this relationship. I just thought if I could get this relationship back, my problems would be solved. They're my person, and that one person will make all of my problems better. And to date, I've not spoken to this person in depth. And somehow, when I switched from my viewpoint on that person and I focused it on myself and my inner loving parent and my higher power, things changed. But back to that point where I was still tripping, and I'm on the phone with my sponsor and I'm telling her, she's like, step 3, Katie, step 3. And I'm like, I don't need to turn my will over to a God. No. Like, I'm not turning my life over. Are you even kidding me? She wanted me to do like things like get on my hands and knees and pray. What are you even talking about right now? I am not an alcoholic. I do not drink liquor out of a brown paper bag. I own my house. I have a 6-figure income. I had an iPhone. I got my nails done. I had a Coach bag in every color. I was not an alcoholic. There was no way I was an alcoholic. My sponsor asked me to open up the big book to a random page and see if something resonated with me. And so I did. And this is the page I came across. My version has tear spots all over it, and it's like written on and everything. But I opened it up and there was 333, and I thought that's really weird because remember, I had just been seeing 333 everywhere. And it said crossing the river of denial. I had a 6-figure income, owned my own home. I had a car phone, the equivalent of an iPhone. I use ice cubes, for God's sakes. Everyone knows an alcoholic, at least when they had to go to AA, is a Skid Row bum and a dirty raincoat drinking from a brown. Each time you read that part in chapter 5 of the big book, this is if you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go at any length to get it. My ears closed. You had the disease of alcoholism, and that was the last thing I wanted. Remember, I only read pages 1 through 164 because that's all anybody told me to read. So this is all new information to little Katie. November of 2020, as I'm reading this, shocked. Eventually, you talked about my feelings in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous until I could no longer close my ears. I heard women, beautiful, successful women in recovery, talking about things they had done while drinking, and I would think I did that, or I did worse than that. Then I began to see the miracles that happen only in AA, people who would nearly crawl in the door, sick and broken, and who in a few weeks of meetings and not drinking one day at a time would get their health back, finding a little job and friends who really cared, and then discover a God in their lives. But the most compelling part of AA, the part that made me want to try this sober thing, was the laughter, the pure joy of laughter that I heard only from sober alcoholics. The reason why I selected my sponsor was her laughter. So this hit me really hard, especially the river part. Now, 2 of my, I have these big imploding things in my life, but the first was when I was 16 and I was disfellowshipped from the Jehovah's Witnesses for premarital sex, where I lost my virginity on the American River after kayaking to that little island with my then boyfriend. I was disfellowshipped and by 3 elders, and that's why the 3 of Swords. And that was the most heartbreak that one could have ever felt. It was the most wretched pain I'd ever felt. And I felt that every time a relationship ended. And it was this awful up and down of a child experiencing the same thing over and over again, repeating age 16 over and over again, up until the point where, yes, it says 1200, but my lot was 12. And this is the power of 12 by 12. And then there was the Wilson River, where my husband took his life. I was the property that I had bought that I wanted to build my house on along the Wilson River. And talk about crossing that river of denial. That one was a hard one to swallow. I just kept coming to an dead end because, while I made this decision to turn my will and my life over, this decision didn't work. So I didn't understand how step 3 wasn't working. That's why I came to ACA, right? My relationships were failed. I hated my life. There was no sense of humor. I was so rigid. I was so pissed at life. You took away the alcohol and I was still I was doing the steps and I was able to stay sober and find gratitude, but there was this hardness that I could not get past. I was at this dead end. And this is a picture from Google Maps of my street and where I'm at. There are dead ends all around me, let me tell you. And continuing the same existence was no longer an option. I wasn't going to be able to live in Tillamook. I didn't have anybody to build my house. My partner was gone. I now was a grieving widow with two grieving children, missing their father, their way of life. Everything that they knew at the time was gone. I found it almost impossible to abandon the thought of being able to fix myself. I have to for them. I was struggling to turn my will and life over to a God that I understood. And this is where I got tripped up in AA. Because my God that I understood was a God of rage. Jehovah's Witnesses. This is page 47 of the Reasoning with the Scriptures, and it's about Armageddon. Will there be survivors? Probably. You may be concealed. Probably. I'm a Virgo rising and a Libra sun and a Capricorn moon. Probably is not going to cut it for me. What will happen to young children at Armageddon? The Bible doesn't answer that. And we're not judges. So maybe you might live. I don't know. Are you good? Do you have bad thoughts? I mean, and then that's like terror. And Jehovah's Witnesses had me counting down my days while AA had me counting up. And so once I found ACA and I was able to find this understanding of a higher power with the help of my inner loving parent. My inner loving parent reminds me that's not what your God is, Katie. That's not what that is. Yours is the universe. Yours is the wind and the nature and the ocean. That's your higher power. All the man-made stuff is just bullshit. You know, religion is just people poisoning spirituality with capitalism. That's what religion is to me. And so I was able to find this higher power. And then I could finally make that decision to turn my will and life over to something that loves me and gives me what I need. I laugh because in AA, you know, hey, alcoholics, when you live in steps 10 through 12, they're in the maintenance steps. You receive the promises found on page 83 of the big book. So 10, 12, 83 is me. I am an alcoholic. So I thought I'm Bill from past life. So I bought the book As Bill Sees It. And my version is actually special. As Bill Sees It, upside down. I thought they were all like that. And then someone said, no, Katie, yours is different. So in order to read my book accurately, you have to flip it upside down. If my books all fall apart because I read them and I study them and a little bit. I'm on page 47, seeing is believing. And so I skipped to the last page and there were 333 pages there. And I thought, you know, between the big book, the big red book, and As Bill Sees It, I got to throw out there, and the 333s at my spiritual awakening, I'm going to throw it out there that maybe this is something I need to pay attention to, especially since another big magical number on the big red book points to the original NAB Neurotics Anonymous, where we focus on shame, guilt, and fear, I think, and anger as our main drugs. And so Bill, after writing that before he died January 24th, 1971, wrote, the members of our trusteeship, the General Service Board of AA, will in the future be our primary leaders in all our world affairs. This high responsibility has long since been delegated to them. They are successors in world service to Dr. Bob and to me, and they are directly accountable to AA as a whole. This is the legacy of world service responsibility that we vanishing old timers are leaving to you, the AAs of today and tomorrow. We know that you will guard, support, and cherish this world legacy as the greatest collective responsibility that AA has or ever can have. Yours in trust and affection, Bill. Then I realized after I married my second husband, Timothy, from 2008 to 2023, I was Katie, B as in boy, ACA. I just find these little things like funny to me. They're just funny. I've been saying ACA for a while, you know. So let's get back to recovery. 12 steps. There's the traditions. AA, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. ACA, the only requirement for membership in ACA is a desire to recover from the effects of growing up in an alcoholic or otherwise dysfunctional family. So with addicts, we all have desires. A lot of people with religious trauma, desire is a bad thing. You get in trouble for having desires. You're punished for desires. But in Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery, a desire is a good thing. You have a desire to recover. It's the only eligibility requirement. I have a lot of tangents I could go off on, and I try my best not to. But if you have any problems with any other outside issue, make sure that you go back to tradition 3. And this is important for me to share a lot because I got disfellowship from the church, and it's a touchy subject for me because sometimes making fun of people who are Cali sober, who use marijuana for medicinal reasons, not knowing my story, not knowing my history with medicine, and my doctor reminding me not to take medical advice from the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't know the substances you're allergic to, that you can tolerate, that we've tried. They don't know all of those things. You know, while you may be powerless over it, yes, Katie, is your life manageable? And that's where, you know, he was like, mentioned our antidepressants, our everyday medicine, our insulin, those things. Would we consider ourselves addicted to them? Or are they simply there to be a crutch for us in areas that we're a little bit weaker in as we recover? And so I'll just leave it at that. I work a 12-step program. And, you know, the sobriety date, the last time I was drunk was December 5th, 2020 was the last time I was drunk. And other than that, I just take every day, one day at a time. So if I was going to meetings every day I would run a 24-hour chip because every day I'm recovering. Okay. So to recap, right? We've got this honesty. We admit something to the crown chakra opens up, and our third eye, our inner loving parent says, hope. I'm going to help you come to believe that I can restore you to sanity and to clarity with this third eye. Because, you know, the human ones are just human ones. We need this third one to help us really gain this insight and to be able to come to believe that we can have this restoration. And then once we do those two things, we can have that faith in making that decision to turn our will and our lives over. We make that decision by our words and our actions. I wanted to make a little note because having faith in something and feeling stupid is quite common. If you have faith in something, it's something that you can't see, but you believe it's there. And when other people can't see it, they're going to call you stupid. The only way for you to quiet that critical voice is to describe what you see. Write it down. Manifest it so they can see it too. Draw a picture. Show them what you see. Have faith that it's there. That critical voice is going to tell us that we shouldn't trust anything outside of ourselves. Did we not learn how untrust people? There were all these people who stole, all these bad people in the childhood, right? That's where our inner loving parent can come in and reassure us that our higher power is a power greater than ourselves. It's greater than any human being, masculine, feminine, doesn't matter. If you're a human being, there is something greater than you. I went to a retreat this weekend, and one of the things I shared was I could go to any group of children and teach them about a power greater than themselves without bringing up religion, without upsetting anybody, simply by taking them outside. Let them feel the air. Let them feel the rain. Let them feel the wet, the cold, the hot. Let them feel nature, because that's going to show them that you can't control it. We try by our homes and our air conditioners and all these things, but there is, to an extent, something kids need in nature, and that's to show them that it's a power greater than a human. So that's my story. Um, that's where I was at. I worked ACA. I'm working ACA. Tonight is my ACA meeting. I go to meetings regularly. I have a sponsor. They know they're my sponsor. I have sponsees. I know that they're my sponsees and they know I'm their sponsor. I talk to them regularly. I have friends that I talk about the program with. I am active in my community, and I really try to practice these principles in all my affairs. I'm a single mom, a solo mom, and I live in Beaverton. Trying to get my kids to school on time is my challenge. Financially gets dicey on a wing and a prayer, which is where donations are encouraged. I help a lot of people in recovery for free. I'm working towards the business side of things. But at the end of the day, my goal is to get this information out, no matter if you can pay or not. And I'm always here to talk. And yeah, that's what I've got. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, that's my contact information. All right, let's see if I can stop this now. We're going to